Hello, we're here with Julián Díaz, who is the CEO of Dufry Group. Welcome back. Thank you for joining us again. Yeah. It's a great pleasure to have you here. I wanted to ask you some questions specifically about Dufry this time, and one of them being there's been a forecast for the end of the year for just over $8 billion. This is what's been reported. I just want to know if you think that's a realistic target, or if it even is a target, or if you're planning to exceed that.
Well, as you know, this is information that is a forecast, and I cannot provide guidance. This information, if you compare with the analyst forecast, it could be realistic.
Okay, good. And it's in that similar vein, and I know that there's an intention by Dufry to reduce net debt to 2 to 3 times adjusted EBITDA by the end of 2017. Again, I'm thinking that this is realistic. This is something that you're actually targeting.
This is a more difficult question because there are not projections, official projections. But I think the company has the intention to deleverage as much as possible in the shortest period of time. This is a disclosure that we have done over the past months. To be close to 3, to be between 2.5, 3 times is a realistic target for the company.
Obviously, it's not easy having to wield a lot of different businesses, business in different locations. Having such a huge organisation, do you ever feel like there are challenges in getting the ideas that are discussed at your level, and the creative ideas and the game-changing ideas to filter through down to actual practice?
Well, it's a very interesting question because I could answer the question in different ways. Let me be the most specific possible. Organizations as larger as we are, have always the difficulty to really make it happen, to deliver. I got the impression after these 12 months of consolidation that the characteristics of the 3 organizations we have consolidated are very similar. And if you have the opportunity to read the values of Dufry, one of them is delivery. We like to talk, we like to discuss, but the execution is one of the most important values of the company. Then, if you are in 350 locations, 63 countries, 33,000 employees, the complexity of making it happen is very difficult. Any decision has to be implemented under the basis that the people responsible for the implementation, first of all, understand the decision. Secondly, they are part of the decision, and thirdly, they have a clear path how to implement it. I think Dufry is an organization that during the process of consolidation have been adapted to the realities of the 3 organizations, 3 companies. We have defined and standardized the process and procedures. We are a company that also over the past 10 or 13 years I have been in the business, standardization has been one of the main targets. Now we are not standardized because we have consolidated 3 important companies in the business. I think, and the plan is, this standardization will be a reality between 6 and 9 months from now. This stage of the process, I would say, is very tough, it's very difficult. Decisions or policies or initiatives that are decided at central level is not like when we were 2 years ago, a company with 50% of the size we are. But I think the organization is committed to go through this path of the standardization processes. Today the answer is no, we are not. But probably in 6 or 9 months we will be in the position.
And you mentioned how long you've been in this industry, and you must have seen some great changes, obviously facilitating some of them yourselves. We've talked about quite a lot of things that need to change and that haven't changed over the last, say, decade. Can you tell us some of the things that you think the industry has, improved upon and has made, the greater changes that this industry has forged?
Well, it's obvious that there have been tremendous changes. For the good. I am not, telling that the changes were not really impacting in a positive way the business. In my view, the global approach that I repeat many times in my view, the retail approach that I have been repeating always since the beginning we started. We need to be first retailers and then travel retailers. The different, commercial offers that we are providing to the customers, those are significant positive changes. On the other side, as I said at the beginning, I think we have been a business very differentiated in terms of we approach the business with not a common view about how to solve the problems. And this differentiation and split of opinions about the business are not really facilitating to get the maximum value of the tremendous business we have. What is going to be, the near future, because long future is always, easy to comment on, is I think we are going to realize, I have been, and I had the opportunity to talk with many stakeholders of this business during those days in Cannes, and I got the impression that we all have the same view. We need to collaborate, we need to coordinate, and vendors, suppliers, are convinced that this is the best way of creating equity value for the brands. And they are more and more focused in specific structures and specific organizations for travel retail.
And your conversations with suppliers, vendors, as you say, have you been coming up against any sort of friction or kind of challenges when in your conversations, with them saying, well, the global economic situation is very difficult for us? I'm guessing you've been receiving some pushback as well at the same time.
Well, my opinion after the feedback from suppliers and other competitors is that we are in the middle of a turbulence, but we are all together. What has happened over the past 18 months in the world is very special and very dangerous. Social economical changes, social economical crisis, huge devaluations in countries of the most important passengers for travel retail, and I think we have suffered all the same. It's not something that you heard in forums in a different way. We are all aligning one thing. It's a challenging situation, but it's also a point where, in my view, the situation is turning around again. I think over the last 2 or 3 months, what I have seen worldwide in the different regions is a tremendous, improvement. And I say tremendous not with the intention to say it's huge. It's a tremendous because the change has happened to the positive and is continuing over the past 3 months.
Many people in the Americas believe that actually it has to come, the business has to come back up because it's reached such a low, and that's a very negative way of looking at things. But I know some people I've spoken to this week in Cannes have talked about their roles in the Americas as no longer being a head of business development, but as in crisis management is what they call it. But they are at the same time positive that we have got to such a stage that things can only really get better.
Well, it's a negative way of looking at it. Okay, I don't like to say that personally. What I like to say is we have found the way to provide value to the customers even in the most difficult situations. What is the meaning of that? The spend per passenger in specific locations that suffer a lot is increasing even with the devaluation and even with the volatility. And this is a specific action. What happened is obviously new offers, new pricing policies, new promotions. It's not because it was at the bottom side. It was because the situation is the same. If you talk, I don't want to talk about the specifics, but there are countries where the spend per passenger dropped significantly due to the devaluation, due to the crisis. The crisis is still there. The devaluation is still there, and the spend per passenger is growing. Why? Because the companies, the operators, vendors, and all the stakeholders have created also the way to turn around the situation. When in the future the situation will ease compared with today, I think the performance will be again like the historical performance in travel retail. But today, what has happened in my view is that the initiatives started have changed the reality.
And moving over to Asia, I know that again Hong Kong has suffered significantly, and some people believe that this will be some more pain ahead because they're as the government continues to in China, as the government continues to implement these imports and postal tax and things, it's becoming still even more difficult. Would you agree with that, or do you see that particularly Hong Kong and Macau are perhaps seeing a revival?
During the first part of 2016, one of the main aspects of this negative performance globally was the slowdown of the Chinese economy, the administration or the initiatives started by the government in order to control the importation of merchandise. What I have seen over the past months is different. What I have seen is, again, the spend per passenger in Chinese nationalities is improving again. Is this something that is permanent and sustainable? I don't know. What I know is that during the first 6 months, 7 months of 2016, this slowdown in the Chinese economy, the crisis in the stock exchange, impacted also the perception about the consumption of these passengers. Then the turnaround is due to that. Again, there are no black and white solutions. I think probably there is a combination. But the positive thing is in most of the locations where we are welcoming Chinese passengers, the situation regarding spend per passenger is improving.
Okay. I just wanted to ask you one final question. People seem to be preoccupied with your position at the company, and if you intend to be with the company for the next, short to long term. And indeed, you were asked a question by Stephen Sackur at the opening conference in Cannes, and I really enjoyed your response when you said that this is a transformational time in this industry, and you plan to stay around for that. And I just wanted you to perhaps elaborate on that.
Well, it's what I said. I didn't, agree any questions with Steve. The same with you. I go to the interviews without any agreed anything, and I was surprised about the question too. And the answer is the same. Life is with up and downs, with changes. I have been in a company for 13 years where I enjoyed it a lot. For me, the question is not depending on me, it's always depending on your bosses. No? You have a board of directors, you have shareholders, and they decide on your behalf. On my side, what I can say is I enjoyed it a lot. I like the big travel retail. Probably is the best retail that ever exists, with 4% increase in customers per year within the next 10 years. At the personal level, personally, I don't like to talk about my life. This is very clear. But the question was a surprise for me too. Okay, I suppose that Steve, that is British-oriented, in terms of the economy and companies, thought that 13 years is a long time for a CEO. Maybe it's a long time. I don't plan my future on this regard. Okay, I am here. If one day I am not here, it will be also fine, because, as I said, I have also an alternative life.
Well, you've achieved an incredible amount in your tenure. So, again, thank you very much for joining us. It's been a real pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you, Charlotte. Great pleasure.